o'clock on October 28th, 2021. This is a regular meeting of the Lewes Board of Public Works, and we have all our council people here. We have our general manager here. We have our attorney here, and we have Kim here. And of course, the mayor is part of our group. Any revisions or deletions from the agenda?
Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, I am sorry, because the last couple of workshops we've had, let's do the pledge. Do it at the workshops. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence, please. Thank you. Thanks, Austin.
Yep.
Do I have a motion on the consent agenda? Anybody want to take a section out? If not, is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item 5. Receive Inframark wastewater treatment plant report. Motion, Richard. Gentlemen.
Okay, Headworks, the malfunctioning bearing to the 5mm band screen was replaced. So we did receive 2 bearings, but the contractor assessed that the other bearing was in decent shape, so we only replaced the one bearing, put the 5mm screen back online the week of the 15th. We had a EQ tank cleaned. I'm sorry. Yeah, we had EQ tank cleaned then on 9/21, and we had the band screen put back, or the 5mm screen put online on the 24th. So we had to repair it on the 15th, but didn't put it online until we had the EQ tank cleaned and put it back online.
How was the EQ tank?
It was
Many rags?
It was pretty ragged up. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Okay.
So we haven't had a pump clog. None of the Gorman Rupp pumps haven't clogged since we had the EQ tank cleaned. So that's a good thing. Regarding the filters, we pulled train 4 of the upstream module to train 4 on the week of October 11th. We had the contractors working there, cleaning the membranes. They weren't as bad as they were back in February when we first pulled them. So that's optimistic. We did. Richard took pictures of the diffusers underneath. The diffusers weren't clogged, so that's definitely a good sign.
Do you have an estimate for hours for the cleaning of the train 4?
I do not. We're assuming it's not going to take as long, so it's not going to take the 120 hours that it took back in February. So we'd estimated it'd be substantially less than that, but probably more than the 60 hours.
Why do you think it'll be less? Just curious.
They're not as ragged up now. Unit 4, because it's finicky, is on standby a lot. So it's the first filter to go in standby. So it hasn't been utilized as hard as the other filters, but it was the first one we cleaned back in February. So we just stayed within that rotation. Pump stations, a proposal to replace the transfer switch at pump station 8 was accepted from Curtis Power. It was around $3,700. So just a transfer switch needs to be replaced there. We got 3 proposals, and that was a low price. We have a rental generator from United Rental hooked up at pump station 4, while plans to provide a permanent solution there. We're still working with GMB and Keystone to figure out exactly what they're going to do there. There's some questions about replacing transformers as opposed to, so there's currently a step down transformer there from Richard, help me out.
A step up.
A step up transformer, yeah. So it's 240 and we step up to 480. And potentially it might be a better solution to have 480 transformers there and step down. So GMB and Keystone are looking at that.
Go through that again.
So the currently the electric service is 240 volts.
Right.
And the VFDs and pumps are running off 480. So it's a step up. We have step up transformers. Is that?
I know I found that out yesterday, but then you said something about changing things over.
Potentially, in the future, it might be more economical to replace the transformers to 480.
We have 480 there.
There's 3 phases.
Yeah,
It's-
There's 480 to the bridge.
Okay, so we have it right there.
Right. And GMB was doing some assessment as far as future, as far as sizing of the new generator that we're trying to get. So.
Yeah, when the generator, but we're looking to have the service would need to be upgraded with the new generator. So it's time to make that decision as far as the transformers. Right. The backup diesel pump is still hooked up at station 4. We had the VFDs replaced. They came in, we had them replaced by Keystone on the 19th to pump 1 at station 4 and pump 2, the VFD. We ordered one as a spare, but VFD for pump 2 at station 8 had failed in the meantime. So that was replaced. We are looking to get another spare to have on hand that would be available be able to service both pumps at station 4 and station 8.
I was done today.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mhm.
We still don't have pump 1 back online. The guys tried to get back online. We think it's clogged. We're working with BPW to get the back truck out there and clean the station
So we're
again.
still working with one pump at station 4.
We had the bypass, but yes, yeah, so the bypass is still online. And then we had Hills out to look at station 3, as I reported last month. We determined that the Corman route pumps at station 3 were nearing the end of their useful life or potentially need to be rebuilt. We haven't got a proposal. Rich had communication with them that the T8 pumps out there are obsolete. They can't get parts for those pumps. So we're looking at replacing both the pumps, and Hills is going to get us a proposal for that. So I know the engineers did look at pump station 3 also. So I'm sure they'll consider what the best solution.
Yesterday. Right?
Yeah.
Yep, best solution would be for that station. Pumps are pumping, motors. A motor could be, the motors can be replaced, but pump parts are obsolete. Personnel, we have 5 full-time employees at the plant currently. The last gentleman started Monday. He is a licensed operator from Pennsylvania. He has a house in Slaughter Beach, and he has already applied for reciprocity. So we hope he will get a level 2 or level 3 license.
Hopefully by the end of next month.
Okay. We did also rehire David Weed as a part-time operator. He's helping out on the weekends, so Richard doesn't have to come in on the weekend every weekend. So we have him on board. A new maintenance tech, Mike Mazzetti. He's local here. His family used to own a sandwich shop in Lewes. He started 2 weeks ago. He's been hit the ground running, it's working out well. So
Does anybody have an electrical license in Delaware?
no, that would be very expensive. So we talked to somebody, but
You say it would be expensive because of the
Master
lack of people
electrician.
that have it? Okay.
Master electrician license. That's what you need, right?
yeah.
Is there enough work for one full-time?
I mean, depending on, upgrade, as far as upgrading pump stations and that kind of thing, if they were to perform that kind of labor. But not the issue with hiring a licensed electrician, they're not going to want to do a lot of the other wastewater. They're not going to want to go down a manhole or well kind of thing.
Sure.
So they want to work on electric. Then we need somebody more diverse in that position. So that's all I have today. Any questions?
Can you provide an update on where we are with the screens at the wastewater treatment plant? Are they fully rebuilt now, both of them? Seals, I know we talked about the bearings already, but
Both screens are online. But they are discharging to the
dewater.
dewatering dumpster. So it's definitely better than it was. So
That's part of the scope for the Headworks rebuild is to rebuild the 2 mil and the 5 mil. And I don't want to be preemptive, but GHD mentioned about adding redundancy in there too. So maybe adding a second 2 mil screen so that if you have a failure with one 2 mil, you have a backup. It's a common practice in membrane filtration plants because of how delicate the membranes are themselves.
One of the things that was, Infomart had mentioned was about going to a 1 mil screen, yet Suez originally accepted the 2 mil, and I've seen in follow-on reports where they still are recommending a 2 mil.
okay. I know that I talked to somebody from Worcester County they have the xenon membranes. It's a 650,000 gallon a day plant, so it's smaller, but they have a 1 millimeter. It's a rotary drum screen, and which is a different footprint. But the gentleman told me that they pulled their membranes once in 10 years, and they had very little cleaning to do.
But is it the same micro screen that we're doing? Is the size of the filter itself
The filters is the same. Yeah.
same size?
Yeah. It's just not as many.
Yeah, sure.
So, I mean, I think it would be a good idea to at least, talk about a 1 millimeter screen or explore a 1 millimeter screen.
And Suez in the trainings and whatnot had mentioned the fact that previously there was a 1 millimeter screen at one point, or they were under the impression that there was one in place here. And that was where that 1 millimeter screen aspect of things came into place. It was from Suez initially, and we were asked by the board to pursue finding out whether or not there would be flow restrictions based on installing a 1 millimeter screen. So that's where the 1 millimeter screen versus 2 millimeter screen came into play.
So, I mean, I'm not sure, it's a different footprint, the rotary drum screen, and I'm not sure of the cost, but the issue, I guess, with the band screens and a 1 millimeter, several manufacturers were making 1 millimeter band screens, and they were very difficult to clean. So they were only, they have spray bars that were spraying from the outside, and with the 1 millimeter perforations, they were more difficult to clean. So several of the manufacturers that I've been talking to went away from the 1 millimeter screen, where the rotary drum screen has perforated plate also, but they have spray bars on the inside and outside, and they're easier to clean.
In the Suez letter to you, Mike, on April 28th, they said our standard design requires a fine screen with the following characteristics: 2 millimeter maximum opening size, punched, not mesh or wedge wire. This is in place in Lewes. No mechanism for screen bypass. And that's something that we know we want to change. But so Suez has gone on record and said the 2 millimeter maximum opening size is per their standard design.
Yeah, I mean, I can't, I'm just, I would like to see a cost, comparison between the 2 millimeter and 1 millimeter
Yeah,
screen.
and I'm open to discussions and seeing what GHD says, but, we are in compliance with Suez's recommendations
Sure,
and design specs.
sure.
Okay.
Yes, no, I am concerned that we have only one pump, even though we have a backup sitting there. But yesterday, we had a discussion with the engineers and they even sketched up a scheme to be able to clean that intake. I think you'll be part of that, Richard. And it seemed to me to make a lot of sense and not too much trouble. I think we ought to pursue that. But you were involved with that, right?
I did have a discussion with the
Yeah.
engineer about how they could possibly modify the existing cast 90 that is in place in concrete and replacing that. And we did have a discussion about some possibilities as far as how to improve
I
that.
think, I know we're just getting started with that study by them, but that's going to be another 6 months more before we get finished with it. I think we ought to pursue that, take a look at that, since it's so critical, and kind of finalize whether we want to do that or not and get moving on it, because if we got it already one pump clogged since the accident, and we're not clearing it. I think that's really critical, and I think we want to pursue that. Work with them on coming up with the final design. I think you have a pretty good idea what it is. It was pretty simple.
I think so,
Yeah, and work with that and try to get that done as soon as possible,
Absolutely.
if that's a solution.
We can get a
We'll
price.
do that, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the pumps in pump station 4 are in pretty good shape. They're not, they're fairly new and both have new motors.
does 8 have the same configuration of intake?
Similar. Very similar.
Is that,
How it comes through the wall.
has that ever been a problem?
No. No, it has not. We have not had any clogging issues at 8 compared to 4. However, the way that the intake into the wet well is different. It comes in from the side versus at station 4 where it is coming in directly across from the pump that is been clogged on several occasions at this point.
Understand?
When we had 8 cleaned, it wasn't as dirty as we would have thought it was. Is that correct, Richard?
Correct.
The flow is pretty low in general. Is the county sending us anything at this point?
The county is sending us approximately just over 100,000 gallons a day, and we have not had that increase further due to the limited capacity, just to ensure that we have no further issues due to the bypass pump and the regular pump, the one regular pump that is functioning. And we are in the process of getting that other pump station 4 cleaned out and removing the clog from inside the well. So that is going to be moving forward here soon.
You can see how much the county sends us, and obviously that ties into how much they pay us, correct?
Correct. Per gallon.
Can we look at maybe a line item for what that revenue generated is from them?
Did we pull that out on this month?
You know what? I think that's
And just to note,
Sussex County Sewer. It's at the bottom of.
reading your mind, we did shut the county down when the VFD went, didn't we, for a period of time?
And on the bottom, it has the sludge operations. So was liquid or are the columns off? Is liquid really 0?
Liquid sludge from the digester 0. We did have So we had,
That's a huge shift. I'm just curious why.
well, we're using the bell filter press and it's summertime, the drying beds work much better. But we did,
And we haven't had much rain either.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we did have liquid, or we had sludge hauled from the EQ tank cleaning that was hauled, but that wasn't from the digester. And I don't have volumes on that. We have to.
That's okay.
And the belt filter press is leaving sometime in November. So these guys have been using that to get the digester as low as possible to kind of give us a little bit more freeboard going into the winter.
We done the math on having that kind of technology. We talked about this with Darren back before.
It's in the budget to do it. I mean, if you do the math on what we pay to pump and haul over the winter months, because the amount of man hours to clean with a hot power washer kind of puts you at odds. I mean, you had mentioned if you know it's going to rain, you're not going to pour because it's going to set you back even further. So if it normally takes you 5 days to dry out and you get a good rain, it now takes you 9 days, about 4 or 3
Is the
days.
technology we're looking at a press, or is it heat, or is it both?
It's the exact same as, it's pretty much the exact same as what the county had on that 50-foot, 54-foot trailer, 56-foot trailer. And it fit right in the dimensions of that building. So you can use it at any time. You can use it in the summer, you can use it in the winter.
Yeah.
And what is the correlation between how you run that and how many beds that actually takes care of?
So over a 6 to 8 hour day, running the press, we're able to produce the same amount of sludge volume as we would using 4 to 5 beds over the course of, that would take over the course of a 10 to 14 day period during good weather conditions. And then rain obviously sets us back typically 3 to 6 days, depending on the volume of rain, for the ability for the sludge to continue drying. So it's, you're talking about six to 8 hours, having a full load dumpster being able to be removed off site the very next day at roughly 20% solids versus several days worth of labor involved in pouring and turning over and additional handling of equipment. So it's
I see the payback's pretty quick on that.
It is pretty quick. Costs haven't gone down, so payback's quicker.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mike? Okay.
And by the way, it's got to be said, the water that's coming out of the plant, as always, is stellar.
and that's due to technology, and we do our best to keep up with it.
What's that?
Is that what's in your cup?
Yes, actually.
Salute.
I'm gonna do it one of these days, though.
Okay.
Thank you and Howard.
That could be there. Thank you very much.
You see what it does.
Thanks, gentlemen. Have a good night.
Get my name in the plant.
As it also ran.
This is where it killed the memorial. Okay. Item 6, President's Report. The only thing I have to discuss was the call that we had, the mayor and Khalid, Councilman Khalid, had with Carper's office on Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. And our portion of the discussion, of course, was the disposition of the treatment plant. And what we were asking them was for upfront funds to evaluate what is best long-term for the treatment plant's location as far as sea level rise and disaster. But I went through what we were looking for, and the comment came back was, we can't help you there. It's not something, that's not the money that we handle. It goes through EPA to the state directly, so we should be dealing with the state.
Tenrick.
They said they would keep us in mind, but they didn't see it coming through them at all. So, but the other issues that they were trying to be helpful on.
Yeah, well, the other issues have more to do with, what are we going to do with, we're obviously interested in the reserve unit should it become available and they didn't have an update on that. And I mean, the things we know is that when the unit deploys in a week and a half, they're going to leave all their vehicles behind. So that may slow down the process of their actually relocating to Newark, because they're taking the majority of their unit personnel to Fort McCoy, and that could obviously slow things down. So they said they would get back to us with more information.
So is the idea we'll have a conversation with Generac? Is that your?
So we're already having
Already
the
set
same
up.
thing. We're already done with them on the 44 million gallons.
Okay. The other topic had to do with BB's request for a mobile unit to be funded for opioid and other issues, and they're already aware of that. And if that comes to pass, then there will be a question of, that would be a purchase, perhaps the funds that might be available, but then there would be a need to figure out how it gets funded on a regular use basis.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 7, receive general manager's report.
So, before I go into my report, Kim, I was gonna say a little bit something different. So Kim being the finance manager, she's diving into these financials heavily. So I thought that for the first time that I know of, I'll have Kim present the quarterly financials, and then questions we can kind of play off of each other if you guys have any.
Great.
Take the reins, Kim.
All right, Q2 started in July and in September 30th. Our operating revenues, they are up almost 1.2 million compared to Q1.
So far, we like this report.
Great.
You are in.
This is our busy season though, so it makes sense. Operating expenses are up 347,000. Do you still like it?
We liked you for a little while.
The non-operating revenues are down 378,000. That we cannot control so much. Our total operating income has increased 827,000. And our total income is up 449,000 compared to Q1. Overall, from last year's Q2 to this year's, our revenues are up still for 360,000. Our expenses are up 180,000, which means that we're up 180,000 total for operating income, which is great. And our non-operating revenues are down. Most of that is coming from our interest income is lower. And our change in market value, we are actually losing money in our investments as opposed to gains from last year.
Market giveth and the market taketh away.
You didn't really have it anyway. Very good point.
And in your total columns on the right side, I pulled out some of the large variances in our revenue other. That's accounting for Apple Electric transformers purchase that we made on their behalf. Plumbing permits coming from,
Wait a minute, we're buying transformers for Apple Electric, why are we doing that?
It was for Abbott's Park.
and then we charged and upcharge.
It was, so when
The
Bob,
project that never happened.
well, no, they're upgrading their underground and their electric.
Oh, okay, so they are using them in there.
Yeah, but they wanted to purchase, it had to be our spec. We essentially told them that we would purchase the transformer, and we'd do a standard upcharge. And that's
And that was only because of schedule, because we could get a better schedule than they could.
correct,
Okay,
our ETA.
good,
Did you get a feed?
thank you.
Did you get draw a feed up for your house?
Tom Fleck Commission.
We have the plumbing permits from Vantage Point Retirement. Our water tower rental, and that's with AT&T and Verizon, and our developments that are just coming in hot and heavy. Line 13, professional and contractual services, our attorney fees are very high, and our water main assessment is starting to pick up.
Take it personally.
Is that related to developments and all that?
Say that one more time.
The cost of the $23,000 we paid this month in legal fees.
We have a lot of projects going on right now.
That's
Yes.
Now, do we recoup most of that in the billing to the developer? Like you do
Yes.
everything else? That's best.
Yeah.
Ones that are specifically
Yeah, okay, good.
budgeted out to them.
I've got a line item in the policy thing to look at some of that. Good. Great.
Line 14, other supplies and expenses. Our dues and subscriptions are high, and our rentals from Clean Delaware from our September issue. Line 16, this is good news. Our bad debt, we only had to write off $359 this quarter. Line 25, gain loss on sale of assets. We sold the old bucket truck and the skid steer. Line 26, we got paid grant revenue for our asset management and water main assessment. And like I spoke of earlier, line 27, change in market value. We lost 123,000, well, almost 124,000 on our investments.
How do we get the grants? Does somebody pick that up and send it out, or how does it, what's the process?
To actually get the grants, GMB applies for the grants.
Are there other grants that we should be considering?
Well, we try almost every project that we can apply towards. You have a matching planning grant, and it's up for the water main assessment study. That was a matching planning grant. So if we spend, the project's 120,000, they pay 60, we pay the other 60. Really, any project that we can get grant money for, we take advantage of. Asset management was one we did 4 years ago. 100,000 for water, 100,000 for sewer. So anytime we can, we take advantage.
Does GMB do the write-ups for the city, Mayor?
Sometimes depending on what the grant is. We get grants for Parks and Rec and stuff like that, and they don't do those.
Kevin, in other, I'm sorry, did I finish? In other notes, water sales, SPI 140,000 already over budget.
So our current budget, we only set up 128,000 in revenue. So just counting SBI Farmer, we're already over that. And we're not even counting the hospital and the school, which is
What's going on?
big
do you know?
producers.
I think everybody's just using, SBI, being in the medical field.
Yeah.
I'm not questioning it.
No.
Well, the question is it sustainable?
Yeah.
That's the question.
I would say so far this year.
Who knows what you're going to see with BB once they get all their things relocated, but that's not going to happen until next May.
Yeah, I think next budget
Is that
season.
a major decrease?
I don't know, Press. It's hard to say because they're moving anything that's going to be considered day surgery, hip, knee, those kinds of things is going to go out to 24. I don't know how that'll, but I really, until it happens, I don't know.
Oh, that's, go ahead.
Could help our wastewater treatment.
Well, our expenses for the wastewater treatment plant are up because to clean the membranes, you have to have constant flow of water. So our water usage is very high.
It's also included in the other notes.
Store your thunder.
And then wages and salaries, it is $32,000 lower compared to quarter one. Because, we don't have an AGM right now. Administrative, it's down 220,000 compared to quarter one. And that would come from the retirement contribution that we made. So our administration is holding pretty steady.
When it comes to our, looking at our budget going forward, right, in the $44 million, et cetera, et cetera. We need to figure out what of this is sustainable for the rest of the year to be able to build that budget out in an appropriate way.
The next budget season will be, I think, even harder than coming into this year. Because I know when Darren and I said,
That's what everybody always says every year.
oh yeah, yeah.
But we need to actually, when we looked at 44, when we looked with Dawn and everything else, knowing what we should expect. And maybe everything else is flatlined, I don't know, but it's just we got to go through that process.
Yeah, but I think to Austin's point, knowing what the new norm is pretty darn difficult at this point. I mean, it's something you have to look at, but I mean,
It always is.
I mean, no. There are some years it's worse than others.
But I'm just saying, it is an unknown that we need to have a perspective on what the known will be. I'm not saying it's gonna be perfect and it needs to be conservative, but it's math and it matters, obviously. Yeah. Obviously.
And I just want to make a comment, Kip. The notes on the bottom of the spreadsheets are phenomenal. I mean, they really help to get through and alleviate
like the
a lot
color
of the
coding?
questions.
We don't get them in color.
You see that?
We don't get them in color.
See, there it is.
Oh, he's a trouble.
I stole Austin's.
So,
But that is very helpful.
yeah.
I
So
agree.
now going into the actual general manager's report. So obviously, we have a lot of projects going on. The construction on New Road is going to pick up. The first leg coming from Tower Hill down to Canary Creek will start here in the next couple of weeks. I believe DelDOT is actually going to close New Road for a period of time completely, and everything is going to be detoured. Yes.
It hasn't been announced yet.
That is
I mean,
through the Tower Hill project. It actually has nothing to do with our portion of the project, with the
But
utility.
usually we get an announcement from DelDOT. I mean, we got an announcement about the sidewalk construction on Savannah Road.
I think it's in November.
Okay.
I would think it's November or December. I will find out if I can get.
I'll send a message to Louise,
Yeah.
hold at DelDOT and find out what she knows. She's retiring at the 30th of November, so.
I know. We also have Town Road started back up. So they're actually ahead of schedule. I want to knock on wood because weather is always dependent. And then just going through some of the highlights, we did hydrant flushing. There was no issues. It actually went very, very well. We also did, we did as much noticing ahead of time, so we didn't have people do their whites. When you do hydrant flushing, that's been a constant problem in the past. We did the household hazardous waste press, handed out, and did some public outreach. So we handed out little note cards and also magnets to each person, or as many people as we could, that came and dropped off their items. And I think it was a success.
We passed out 200.
Yeah.
So, little message cards and magnets.
You have that at the library.
The message cards and magnets? No, but we have plenty to hand out.
I think I'd put some over at the library.
Because we actually talked to Dr. Tam too about having.
I know you met with
at
Dr.
BB.
Tam, but I mean, that's a place that has a lot of traffic
Yeah,
and getting them to put it on their counter and,
and we have some with the city too.
yeah, we have some on our front counter.
You sound the realtors, didn't you?
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Sharon actually dropped them off personally to realtors. So then we also, one of the ideas was at city restrooms, no wipes in the pipes, actually getting a placard. I think either Chris or Sharon reached out to try and, start that process.
We'll be happy to do that.
Yep. I was gonna let Tom and Richard talk about the Schleich Avenue master plan. Did you have any comment towards any update?
Well, I think, so we still haven't met with the city directly.
Yep.
But we've gotten together with Austin and kind of laid out what it is we think BPW needs and are putting together a program of the space requirements that we need from the property so that we can then merge that with the city. We've talked about some constraints. Some of the issues that came up were, where the real property boundaries were, and GMB was very instrumental in putting together from the historic meets and bounds where the property lines are, not between the properties, but two adjacent properties. So I think.
Yeah, the difficulty of going further is the lack of the back or the input from the mayor's office, city council, on what their ideas are on location, quantity, programming that would affect decisions that we might want to make.
So I think at this point, we're ready to sit
Okay, well,
down.
then I think we need to schedule a meeting.
Yeah, so,
I didn't know where you were. You wanted to do your thing
no, and,
and assessment, so we're happy to schedule a meeting.
yeah, and, part of it was me being out of town the beginning of October.
That's
and,
fine.
Let's
just get a
I think
meeting scheduled.
we finally got things to a point where we can sit down and combine the two lists.
And with, go ahead.
I really don't think we should go much further than that with things in play with the reserve. I mean, I don't think we should start spending any money about doing things with that that's sitting out there within the next year or two, maybe possibly. And hopefully we'll get a decision between them, because no sense moving things around and spending money doing things. If in a few months, maybe things will all change. So I think good to have a plan, but I'm saying, let's not implement anything.
It's all paperwork.
Yeah.
There's nothing, we're not talking about anything happening right now. We're just talking about paper.
I think that's really.
Well, one of the things that did come up in our last get together was the location of the battery. We're fixated on that building, but it may not actually be the right place for it relative to the other side of Schleich in the back of the substation. So, that's one of the things we want to look at is, because before we start doing anything major, looking at, is there things that we can do or should do regardless of what happens with the Army Reserve? Yeah.
Those proposals are due tomorrow. Is it still?
No, we extended the date to the 12th.
12, I think.
There was some questions that we were still working with DMAC on, specifically about arbitrage. And, so we want to make sure that we get the bidders the answers to the questions that they need to provide a meaningful response. So we pushed the date out one more week.
So from a process perspective, is the idea that you guys would meet with the city would say, here's what we're thinking, we would say, here's what we're thinking, and then we go back to our respective boards or councils to talk about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first is to merge the two. I mean, from a high level, what we're putting together is square footage and uses. Oh, no, we forgot. We've got the Osprey. And the Osprey's house into there. He would be very upset, or he and she will be very upset. So, hopefully the city will provide the same thing from a square footage, and then we can kind of figure out from there how to go. No, it will all come back to the board and city council.
But we'll see, the board will see it before it goes to the mayor and council. I think before.
Oh, yes,
before
yes,
your
yeah.
meeting, I think we should all agree what's there.
Okay,
that's fine.
I think that's,
Yeah, absolutely. So, Austin's pulling together the final format. We would.
yeah, I think the rest of us would like to see. Put
The
together.
assistant GM is all over.
We also met with GHD, actually Tuesday and Wednesday. They did the on-site at the wastewater treatment plant yesterday. Press and I were there. I had to step out. Tom graciously was up in Dover representing us. And then we looked at 4 of the pump stations. We looked at 3, 8, 4, and 5. And that is the scope of phase 1 of that project. And I think they're going to do a second trip back to get a little bit more finite detail on the stuff, and then hopefully get some answers back and some design options and redundancy options for all those facilities.
I'm impressed. I mean,
Yeah.
when we met with them virtually the day before, they were all well informed on what we were doing. I mean, Jeff is heading this thing up. It was very good about getting all the information to them, and they all were informed about just things we were doing in the background and so forth. And when we went around, they were all here, all of them. And you can tell that they know what they're talking about. They're very good group of people. Yeah.
And then the very last thing that I have was I want to make the suggestion of having quarterly BPW and city council meetings. I think we have a lot going on right now. I think both parties would benefit from having that communication. So I want to put that in front of you as something to think about. You don't have to make a decision tonight. I'm just putting it out there for future. Maybe after the holidays, because it's gonna.
Yeah, we're not looking before the first of the year.
And so two things, I think Austin did not mention that Austin and the staff were out on Pilot Town Road responding to the puncture of and
Puncture of what?
the water line.
The water line at the end of Politan Road.
So I think Austin, I mean, it's Friday afternoon at what, 3:00, of course.
Right around there.
And Austin and the staff were out there and, got it under control, which could have been a major disaster.
That's similar to the problem down at the pumping station. He got there 1:00 in the morning or something and had people there.
And just so it's on the record, it was nothing to do with us. It was Del Dot contractor that did it. So, and the other thing, just since Austin mentioned it, I should have brought it up in my report, but, yesterday's meeting up at Dover, I just wanted to tell you the four comments I made in front of the Plus Committee about the development on Kings Highway, the village.
Cottages at the village.
Villages, whatever it is. It'll change names 4 times. So I made 4 points. One was that the BPW had objected to the prior development back when this was before them twice, due to the location next to the well fields. The majority of the land that is under rezoning is within our wellhead protection area. The county, the BPW, and the city purchased the Jones Farm property. So we've already put our money where our mouth is. And that this development is being done incrementally. So, they approved the shopping center. Now they're asking for approval of another 11 acres, but there's still over 50% of the property that has not even been before plus. So, looking at this thing incrementally is not in our best interest. So,
All those developments have been done incrementally.
and the other interesting thing was,
History.
I was the first non-state employee to be present at the Plus hearing since they shut the Plus process down for COVID. They were shocked when I walked into the room.
I presented yesterday morning, and I was not present in person. I didn't. I called them and they said, "No, people haven't really been coming in." So,
Except for Tom.
Well, I'm not sure we would have gotten to speak otherwise because, Sussex County spoke, but they were not letting the lay public speak, so.
I'm surprised they held it because I'm going to another state meeting tomorrow and it's been pushed back to virtual because the state's not, theoretically, the Department of Social Services is not meeting in person yet. Okay, I gotta leave, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
The whole business, we've got a few things. Most of these things should move fairly quickly, I think, because we're just assigning dates and so forth. I just want to let you know that I think Mike is available by phone until 6 o'clock. If we get done.
5:45, I'll be out of commission, so
okay.
a little early.
That won't be pushing it, but I just thought I'd let you know. It's only an hour, less than an hour from now. Okay, item 8, open forum general discussion regarding acceptance of the revised Lewes BPW handbook presented at the September 22nd, 2021 BPW board meeting by RKL.
So
Did you get any other comments since then?
No. So the only thing that was asked was to incorporate the COVID policy, have them take a look at it. They took a look at it. There was no real changes. They said we were actually pretty up to snuff on everything. And they just added it as an addendum. So if the pandemic ends, that can be taken out as a separate item of the handbook, if that makes sense. So everything else is pretty much as presented. So we were going to make a decision at the September board meeting, but we didn't have the information, discussion, and action on the agenda item. So today you have the,
Have our action.
yeah.
Any more comments before we move on this? A motion to accept the handbook as prepared?
Make a motion. Oh,
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
aye.
The next three items. Are you familiar with these three items?
Yeah, I
Did, and the reason I'm bringing it up, if the 9 and 10 are going to be allowed by 11, should we approve 11 first?
So in mine-
Mike is kind of picky.
number 9, to amend the bylaws would be first.
Okay,
So I think they're in the right order on this sheet, at least the one I have here. I don't think they're marked. It's under 10 on my, in my binder. The bylaws here and then,
So we have the
oh, no, okay.
No,
Nine
nine
is
is a finance.
9 is, the yeah,
resolution to establish a finance committee, and then 10 would be the updating the bylaws for video conferencing and committees.
right. So we'll need to do, we need to amend the bylaws to allow for the video conferencing and the creating of the committees first, and then formally read in the resolution afterwards. So, and the amending of the bylaws can be done by a motion and a vote, but we'll actually need the resolution for the creation of the financing.
so you're
committee.
fine with the way it is, or do you want to move 10 up?
So on my 10 is the resolution. My 9 is amend the bylaws.
Okay,
So,
that's fine.
I got it the other way around.
Yeah, this one is the other one.
yeah.
I just
We'll
turned
do
this today and he.
Okay, so I have the middle one. So I guess on all your sheets, move it up, amend the bylaws.
So
first.
your 9 is actually it's reversed.
Yeah, so it looks right on my sheet, but to all you guys, yes, move up. So amend the bylaws first.
Okay.
And that can just be done by a motion.
Open forum general discussion to amend bylaws for video conferencing and committees. So we need a motion on that.
Well, before, there are a couple of things in the bylaws
Mhm.
that, when I reread them, I have no problem with the video conferencing in that aspect. But there are several other items in here that I think we probably need to revise also. Do
Okay.
you want to do it at another time or?
It's not listed on the agenda. I mean, we want to, it's something we want to talk
Can I
about.
hold it to the next, is it?
Yeah,
You generally like, I like that.
yeah, I mean, there are some items in here that in reviewing it, I mean, it's part of our yearly review. I have some concerns about.
Okay. Do you
Well,
want-
I mean, look, the first one is, the name shall be the Board of Public Works of the City of Lewes. Yet, all of our letterhead, logoing, everything says Lewes BPW.
I mean, it's something we can take up at,
Can we do this?
Yeah, we,
And take,
sorry.
I was gonna say, can we do this and then take that up at like the next board meeting? or-
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if that's something we want.
Let's just do
yes,
this.
and because there are other items in here.
Yeah,
also.
if there's a few other items and it, requires more discussion, we can.
Make
do
sure to
that.
put it on the
That's what I'm
agenda.
gonna do.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So do I have a motion on the bylaw revisions as they stand?
Make a motion to stand.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Okay, open forum general discussion regarding resolution to establish Lewes BPW Finance Committee.
So you want to read by title?
Yeah, I can read by title. I'm sorry. You want to make the
It's
motion?
a resolution, sorry.
Do you want to make a motion to read by title only?
I'll ask for a
So
motion.
moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so
Didn't want to second one of the things.
the resolution of the Board of Directors of the Board of Public Works of the City of Lewes regarding the creation of a finance committee. So it's read in by title only, presented for adoption and vote.
Any discussion on this? I have a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion to accept resolution number 21-000 to create a finance committee. I think it's a great idea and
And given where we are and where we're going, I think it's important that we really have one. So make a motion to accept the
we'll-
resolution, right?
We'll add the number.
Got the number later.
Well,
That's what I did.
No, it's highlighted because the number would be added.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Pass.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll second.
All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Reform general discussion regarding update BPW policies.
Okay.
Earl and Tom.
Well, to start with, what we've done is, let me get my paperwork here. Well, Sharon has put together, all that, all those documents on what people have put in terms of what we've asked everybody to say, get what's your ideas and so forth and so on. And Earl put this spreadsheet together, which has been passed out here.
Earl stole the format, by the way, from another Tom.
And so, so Earl and I put together this, and he put the spreadsheet together, but we went over it line by line. And what we're saying basically is, look it over. And at our workshop, what we should be doing is saying, do we want to take out anything? Or do we want to add anything? And then we really probably need to come up with what format are we going to do this? Because the reason we're doing this at all really was that Mike Hoffman said, I think the press, you ought to have your policies all in one place. So that's what started all of this, going back through the policies and finding out where they were, and they're all in different places. So the one in the city's webpage is like, I don't know, 132 or some of them, and many of them are either outdated or replaced, et cetera. So I don't, the question really comes up with where do we format it? Something like that? Do we put that a better one together? Or one of the thoughts was a template that has categories like finance and governance and so forth, and then put the resolutions, the bylaws and the resolutions that you want in there under the different headings. The other is we can just make a list of them all.
Has this been passed on to Mike yet for his review and
Not yet.
answering those questions?
We've had conversations with him,
Yeah.
but we've not sent him a formal process. But I think what Tom and I were talking about is the ones that are in blue there, that have the hyperlinks. That's the one that, and actually it's Tom, and myself, believe that those are the live policies that we have. Everything that's not on there would not be a current policy. And by the way, and Tom and I talked about this a lot, using the difference between policy and resolution, that's not us for us to figure out. We just need to figure out what it is we want. Mike and other smart people will figure out,
Right.
Is it a policy or is it a resolution, is it bylaws, whatever it is. So the first thing that Tom and I talked about was the links in blue, are they still alive in your point? And we have everybody's opinion that's opined on that over there on the far right-hand side. And then it came down to just everybody kind of piling in on what they thought the policies should be. Nothing happens without the will of the board, obviously. And again, policies may have to be resolutions. And just going through it, like Tom was saying, is what we're looking to do. And really those tranches. We agree that these are the live policies, yes or no, changes if needed. And then it gets to, do we think that these are policies to consider? And we can vote on that. And the reality is, and Tom and I talked about this a lot, it's just a line item. You're not voting on a whole policy, really. You're just voting on, should we do this?
Right.
And if the answer is yes, then Mike and other smart people sit down and actually write up a policy, right, that we would then vote up or down on, like we did with the finance committee. The finance committee would be representation of what happened. We didn't know it was going to go into the bylaws or whatever else it went into, and it did. And Mike addressed that.
Of course, one easy way to take care of it all is to say, okay, here's our policies. All active policies and resolutions in the on the BPW's webpage are considered policies. All the employee handbook is considered policies. You know, all the bylaws are considered policies.
But I think we have to organize them like you were saying, so we understand where they were, easy to find and.
Yeah, I think with 100 years of
Yeah.
policies and
But there weren't that
resolutions.
many. I mean, really, there weren't that many.
The
That's-
color, the one I object to is I do not see that the treasurer is responsible for collecting bad debt.
Yeah.
I
can
think,
drop that out.
I think that one just got
Pretty sneaky.
taken off automatic.
Yeah.
No, what's on there is the ones that we thought were still alive.
Yeah.
Right.
But
So you got everybody's comments so far.
Yeah.
And as Mike, Mike may have some problem, some items that he would like to add from his
Yes.
standpoint.
Yeah, sure.
So he can get that to him.
I think there is something he added. I think I did.
I'll
get
just make sure that he,
Yeah.
that he has his input too, because that's probably very important.
And again, look, some of these things we're gonna look at, we're gonna say, you know what? No.
Yeah.
Some of them we're gonna look and say, you know what? This reminds me of something else. And that becomes a
Yeah.
yes. So it's just a matter of figuring out how we work through it. And that's why it's a working session, right, Tom? So we can work through it.
Okay.
Is there any reason that we can't just go through whatever their name is and then decide, yes, we're going to do this, and later organize them into finance organizations,
I think that's right.
whatever, because if you're trying to do both at once,
Yeah.
it's confusing and
And maybe even have Mike do that organization. Maybe that's easy to fit.
Yeah.
We can-
Give you an example, because what we thought is you would go down this list, and if there's something in there you think isn't a policy, you just, at the workshop, you would bring that up, or something you thought we should have as a policy that isn't in here, then bring that up at the workshop. I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
He was talking about the categories.
Oh, the category.
Let's do the work and then
No, that
put it
comes
all
later.
together.
I mean, that's- yeah,
All out
no, no.
afterwards.
Yeah.
We have to come up with the policies first, and then we say, okay, well, that belongs in finance, or that belongs someplace else. Yeah, I got it.
But again, taking the finance committee as a representation, we did not get it the first time, right? And then it got written up, and then it got discussed, and then it got formalized, and we could actually have something we could really vote on. That's what we're looking to do.
Do you think we really need an action on this? Do we really need, I don't think we need to.
No, not tonight. No, we're just to really,
There's a workshop next week, right? So-
Yeah, just say action. You weren't looking for, yeah, no. Okay.
so I think that's all we had to say, unless Phil has something.
I think this is really good. You guys have done yeoman's job on this thing.
And it's literally a combination of everybody.
I think it'll be fun to finalize it. All right, new business. Open forum general discussion to pick a date for our combined November, December board meeting. Were you thinking of a date, Austin, or did you want us to?
I was shooting for like the week of the 6th. That gives us a week when we get back to kind of get our bearings straight. But I'm open to any and all suggestions.
That'd be a contrarian.
Yeah.
I wonder if we shouldn't have an extra one scheduled just in case. Because if something comes up and we can, we get a report back on something we can do with the pump state, whatever it is. I just wonder if we should have one out there in hopes that it gets canceled, but have it out there anyway, just in case. And by the way, I don't want to work either on, in that time frame, but
So you obviously probably wouldn't do it the 24th because that's the day
Why
before
not?
Thanksgiving. Well, I'll be doing it remote.
So we're thinking about moving it, keeping it where it would normally be, and then having another.
no,
one.
I'm just saying, should we schedule a placeholder in December just in case?
Well, we can do it 7 days in advance if we needed to. Do
We wouldn't have
emergency
financials.
moves.
If we do it on the 17th, we wouldn't have financials. So it'd be
17th of
more,
what month?
I think we'd only do it
Next
if like pump station information came out.
Well, I think, why not do it the 8th of December?
and if we need a workshop,
Because we're going to the holidays right before that. That's kind of messy. And then 8's early enough that we still have time in December. Because once you get into the last couple of weeks, it's not going to be.
and we may actually need a workshop because we would have maybe some of the RFPs that come in.
That's what I was,
So
Or you want to do it the first and then it'll give us more time in December to.
Whatever you guys, I'm just saying having one plan may not be.
I can't do it the first.
I would say the 8th. Because that gives us time to get everything together and get an agenda out.
I'll do it for the next 2 months.
So we'll move that.
At 4 o'clock?
He's on pump station duty.
All I do is bring coffee and drinks.
Would that be at 4 o'clock, the same time?
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay,
So what date did we select here?
The 8th.
December 8th.
Not the 7th, not Pearl Harbor.
All right. Item 13, open forum general discussion of the placement of the Lewes BPW public power billboard placement.
Okay, so
I'd like to turn that over to you unless people.
yeah, it's just a placement. If you guys would rather have it out on Route 1, if you want to close it to town, I'm more than happy to pick it for you. If you want me to pick it for you,
No, that was just my. Right, I don't have.
it's in the budget for
Are
DMAC.
there any billboards in town? Not even, are there any?
I think there's one. I think one of them.
I don't think so, because I, the
It's not
city
in-
ordinances don't allow it.
Savannah Road,
Those council people.
Savannah Road westbound.
Running for office. You don't sound so sure either.
There's one on Savannah Road out about 1/10 of a mile from Route 1.
Right, it's
That's about
outside
as-
the city limits.
Yeah, it's about as close as you can get.
By the Arby's. Is that-
Well, you can do the one by Grand Slam. You can do the one by. Yeah.
Erecting on the roof of the building.
Yeah.
You want it illuminated.
That was a joke.
I have no preference for it.
It's for Public Power Week. So what happens is that we put other communities that are a part of DMAC used to put they put a billboard up, usually is up hopefully for like 20 or 30 days. And it just basically has a picture of Lewes BPW staff, usually linemen. It says public power is, it's promoting awareness of public power. So I think it's fantastic. We're going to put it in Del Electric Co-op.
It's not out of our budget though.
No, and we're going to put it in Del Electric Co-op's territory.
Talking about if we get another message in there.
Yeah. Slip it in there.
We may be able to, but this,
What about the playing with the banner behind it? Instead of a-
creativity's coming alive.
In December.
If there was creativity, get what those pipes.
Wait a minute, council person that needs-
I just throw an idea out to you all. I'm thinking of a blank wall that might be available. This is a temporary sign that you put up.
Yeah, it's usually 20 or 30 days in October. So we're doing this for October of 22.
Okay, then I have no suggestion.
What about the Dickey's old place? It's become the brewery. He's got that.
Right. that's
Think
the
about it.
first laws.
Yeah, I mean, that's as soon as you come into town.
So by next year, this time, that.
It's gonna be gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the brewery. But it's, this is just for 30 days, right? When,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not until next October. That's
Oh,
when
yeah.
a brewery by
That's-
then.
Yeah.
okay.
that's where it's on.
I like
You
that.
want me to make
Like it
the
even
call?
more.
Yeah,
I'll have Sharon and myself, we'll make the call for you. If you, I mean,
I'm fine with it.
it's Route 1. It's really Route 1 or coming in Savannah Road.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, why don't
There's a
you
way to do it. Wipes in the pipes in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I do some creativity.
Okay.
Mhm.
Anything temporary on the,
Army Reserve site, if that's being abandoned?
Oh, the mayor kind of mentioned that when we were on our call to Carper's office. He was asking that, and they don't know either. And the fact that they're being deployed to Wisconsin or whatever now for a while and leaving 20 people here and not moving the vehicles from here makes it sound like they may be here for a little longer than they were anticipating. But
But this is in 2022.
yeah, Carper's office had no idea.
Okay.
They weren't able to provide any input at all. But they were just supposing like everybody is.
Don't the schools have put up banners temporarily or, of,
Well, we have our banner, yeah, that we put up for like the hazardous waste drop off and everything.
Okay.
That's at the school there, but this is a regular highway banner that they're offering for us to put up.
We've
I
had-
think we leave it to Austin and the staff.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Everybody go.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion?
I don't.
Ken, did you have a comment? Go ahead.
I was just gonna actually build on what Richard just was speaking to, and at the old Shield School location, the driveway entrance on Savannah, there are 2 poles there that they frequently do string banners on. And that site is going to be under construction, because they're tearing down the old school and building a new one. So I'm just throwing out as a location that might actually be a viable location for your banner. And it's right along Savannah Road.
As I said, we do use that, like, we just used it for the drop off of hazardous waste. We do have banners that we use there. This is being funded for a highway sign someplace.
Okay, so it's not appropriate for that kind of application.
Probably
is
not.
what you're saying.
Not if we can get a highway
I
sign.
understand what you're saying.
The city needs to put a billboard up somewhere.
Yeah.
All right, item 14, call to the public.
Oh, that's me. I actually have something. Thank you very much. I appreciate this.
Let me check my notes. My name's Tim Ritzert, and I'm speaking to you first as a council person, and then I'm going to speak to you as just a BPW customer. And I wanted to share with you an idea that I shared recently with our city manager, and it was accepted as something that she thought was viable, and I wanted to plant the seed with you folks as well. I'm reminded by the fact that I'm sitting in this room by myself, and there are a few people from the public attending virtually, but there are many empty seats here. And I find your meetings to be very useful to attend. Even before I was ever serving on council, I would come to your BPW meetings, not everyone, but with some frequency. And I always learned a great deal. I learned about what was really happening in the city by attending your meetings. And the suggestion that I made to our city manager is that to drive interest to the BPW and to the issues that you all are dealing with, and reinforcing also what I believe is going to be the cooperative spirit between the city and the BPW. I've asked that we reach out to you all and begin to post your meeting schedules on the city website, rather than expect people to just look at the BPW website. I think in most people's minds, they think of you as part of the city, and the technicality of the fact that you're your own corporation and you're separate, that's lost on most people. But if we could get you all to agree to getting your meetings posted to our city calendar, I can't help but think that it would be helpful in driving more interest, more participation in your meetings. So I just wanted to bring that in.
Yeah.
I think put it on the calendar, when you click on the meetings, it shows up there.
It should.
Right.
Great idea. Totally.
Now I have a question, and I'm not quite sure where the agenda. And I might be out of order here, so I don't have your agenda fresh in my mind, so I don't know if this is coming up or not. But do you all have an update on from the last meeting with respect to the Donovan Smith property, and what's going on there? And are we going into executive session?
Yeah, we're going to executive session, but I think you can give an update, I assume, where
I really don't have any updates for myself. I mean, Austin, if you.
Austin probably knows as much as anybody.
I think I would say that the conversations continue to happen between all parties. It's not dead in the water. It's still actively working, or everyone is actively working, and we all have the same goal.
Okay.
What's holding it up at the point?
There's a couple things. The BPW supports the project.
Right.
The BPW is the one that's helping administrate the funds and is also coordinating the engineering work. But there are discussions and obligations that we are not directly involved in. So those would extend past to the other individuals, would be the park owner and DENREC. So it's not just off face value a BPW issue.
And the issue that was raised during the last meeting is still outstanding and unresolved. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.